Hi Eddie, last one of these for the season. You've obviously got Champions League football secured now. Now the dust has settled. How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about the achievement?
Yeah, feeling good. I mean, it's been a hectic few days. I think, to be honest, for me, this won't surprise you, but it's sort of on to planning and preparing for next season straight away, really, because once the season ends, the players will break and I won't see them again. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but I think just an incredible achievement, and so pleased that we were able to do it in front of our supporters and get it done there. And the scenes afterwards were brilliant to be part of.
Have you not given yourself a day or two to celebrate?
No, not really, because it's just normal life, isn't it? You just go on with kids and the home life, and as I say, preparing. So a lot of our success next year will be down to what I do now. So it's making sure that I think the players get a rest mentally, but for us the work goes on.
Is there a chance that some of the players, that's them now for the summer? Are you going to leave some of them out on Sunday to try and rest them up, because quite a few of them it looks like they've been playing through the pain barrier?
I don't think we've got anyone left to rest. So we've got a few issues. I think the end of the season's come at a good time for us, because we would have been really stretched. So players like Jolinton will miss the game, for example. Manquillo will miss the game, and then we've got the others that have been injured going into the Leicester game. So yeah, we're stretched, but it will give us a chance to have a look maybe at one or two other things.
And will this be an opportunity maybe for some players to sort of say their goodbyes to the support? Could we see them play their last minutes for the club?
No, you can never tell what's going to happen in the future, but I don't see that. Maybe for 95% of the squad, maybe one or two players might move this summer. Is very difficult to predict. But as I said earlier, I think we have to keep the majority of the squad together. I feel they've earned the right to do that. But we have to be, as I said, good in the transfer market.
Are the words Champions League sitting a little bit more comfortably on your lips now?
Yeah, I'd have a go at saying it. But it's no, it's an amazing thing. We're looking forward to it. To next season, the challenge. We've, as I say, started that preparation, and it will be a thing that when we get the draw and see who's in our group, I think that will be when it really kicks off.
You mentioned the summer transfer window and the fact you're already looking ahead to that. You've given yourself, it looks as though you've given yourself a busier summer now, with the fact that you've got two, European football and the Premier League to fight upon.
Yeah, I mean, I hoped to do some things anyway, and I don't think it necessarily changes the numbers, because the numbers will be there. The 25-man squad, and we'll have to produce a squad for the Champions League. So it won't necessarily change the numbers in terms of the players that we're looking to recruit. As I've said a lot here, it's not a lot of numbers. It won't be big moves in, but hopefully it'll be selective, and hopefully it'll be the right two or three players that can make the difference.
Have you got a budget you're working towards?
Well, I hope so. We haven't necessarily had those discussions yet. I think we're planning to sit down the next couple of days and go through things. Now it's been finalised, and we'll see how that goes.
And there's quite a bit said in the media this week about the potential front of shirt sponsor and the imminent announcement of that. Will any further sponsorship deals be critical to what you get to spend this summer?
I don't know whether it directly impact us this summer. Definitely for the future of the football club, we need to, and I know everybody's working behind the scenes as hard as they can to generate sponsorship and income. Whether that directly affects us right here, right now, I'm not sure.
And just finally, to finish above three of the so-called top six, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, what does that say about the achievement of your team and everyone involved this season to finish above not one but three of them?
Yeah, I think it's not something at the start of the season that you could have predicted, and that's the beauty of the game that we're in. It is such a tough league. I know I sit here and say that every week, but it is. The challenges that we face week in, week out are at the highest level, and we've had to be very consistent. I think that's the biggest compliment I can give the players. Week in, week out, I think we've responded to different challenges. And to do the achievement that we've done is something that's not taken lightly by me. I think the players have been absolutely incredible, and I do think it's a a massive moment for us. The downside to that is the expectation totally changes, and then for us all to try and live up to that expectation now is going to be the hardest challenge.
You're looking forward to that expectation?
Ask me in a few months, I think. I don't know, something you look forward to, but the dynamic will have changed for us, and I think we've massively overachieved this year for where we were at the start of the season, and to keep overachieving, and that's what we're going to have to do to match the expectation is going to be our biggest challenge.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you.
Andy. Well, Eddie, everywhere you go in town, obviously everyone is talking about the Champions League. Apart from being at home and apart from being at the training ground, have you had any situation where you've been able to even just sample a little bit of that buzz or not?
Not really, Andy. No, it's been normal routines for me. I think someone asked me the other day, will I be venturing into town? It might even have been you, I'm not sure.
Probably was, it's the same old question.
And just said in a different way.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't. But I'm aware of the feeling, and I think the feeling is the most important thing, and the excitement of what we've done and what's ahead.
I've not asked this one for definite. Has anyone played the Champions League anthem around the training ground? Because it's all I'm hearing at the minute.
No, they haven't. Well, I haven't heard it anyway. I've received a couple of messages that have had it included, but I've not heard it ringing out around the training ground.
On the players, I've kind of sat and asked you inane questions about what they've said, what they've done all season long. Is that what makes this group so special? Not just their ability, but their likeability as a group as well?
Yeah, I think the two sort of go hand in hand. I mean, you can have a successful team and not necessarily good people within that team, but I think we have the luxury of both. I think we've had an incredible spirit, robustness about the group, a determination to achieve, and these things are so important. So when we've hit little bumps on the road, I think the lads have just been able to regroup and go again. And it's not all been plain sailing for us. There have been challenges along the way. But the mentality's never shifted, and we've always stayed together and been unified in the difficult moments. So I think that's the biggest compliment I can give them.
Your dossiers have become well known. Upon reflecting on this season as a whole, what's going right at the top of those dossiers in terms of reflecting back on the season, in terms of the biggest thing that you've taken from this season, would you say?
I think it goes right back to the start, to be honest. I think it goes back to last summer and to the January before. The recruitment of the right players, the right characters is fundamentally so important to then what happens beyond. And then, that's just one part, but then the unifying of the group, the work, the attitude to the work, the commitment to what we're trying to achieve, and having a goal and going for it. And I think all those things combined have played a big part in what we've done.
I heard Pep Guardiola talking about legacy the other week. Now that Champions League football has been achieved, I know you don't speak personally, I know you're quite a humble character, but what do you hope your long-term legacy can be at this club after the season that you've had?
I just feel it's too early for me, the players, for anyone to talk about legacy here for our part, because I feel like we've just started. I always think with things like that, you do your work, you commit to everything that you're trying to do, and the legacy will hopefully take care of itself. I think I hope people will look back and go, there's a guy and a team that were totally committed to bring success to Newcastle. They did everything that in their powers to do that. I think fundamentally at the start, that's what I want to see.
Just on Chelsea, how surprised are you at what's happened with them this season, and how much more of a force do you expect them to be next season?
Yeah, I think I probably prefer to focus on the second part of that. Next season, I think they'll be a big threat.
Yeah.
So I think they've got top quality players. I think that's undoubted. But I think trying to form a team very quickly with a lot of new players is very difficult to do. I think that's probably been their biggest challenge. But I think next year, a lot of those players will now have had Premier League experience. They will have adjusted to the league, and they'll be a big threat.
Just finally, last summer I think you were doing transfer business at the top of water slides, etc. Are you expecting this summer to be at least a little bit less frantic, or any more frantic?
you never quite know. I might be at the top of those water slides again. I expect conversations to take place right throughout the summer, because I think, as I said earlier, it's one of the most important things that we do, and we've got to get it right. But the challenges, as I said, are going to get harder. They're not going to get easier.
Thanks,
Andrew.
Eddie, congratulations. I mean, was this season your greatest achievement as a manager, or do you think back to your time at Bournemouth?
Yeah, I was asked this straight after the game, and it's you know, I don't ever sit and think and rank them. So it's just your impulses. It's definitely up there. It's definitely really high at the top of the list. I always go back to my first season of management, which was, you know, such a difficult situation. We're fighting relegation, and basically we knew we were fighting for Bournemouth at that moment, Bournemouth's future as a football club. So keeping them in the league that year was a huge thing. Had promotions and now this. I think time will tell, really.
Grant Cool scored midweek. Is he part of the picture for next season?
I'm really pleased that he scored, and delighted, you know, for him. It's been a tough loan spell for him, but hopefully some real positivity to take into the summer for him off the back of that goal. I think it's probably too early for him to be part of our first team picture here next year. I think potentially another loan spell will do him good as he continues to develop to the pace of this league.
I mean, obviously, I know you've already talked about transfers in the summer, and I know you can't name names, obviously, but can you paint a picture in the round of what the squad will look like come August the 31st? You know, how would you describe it in the big picture?
I don't know. In the sense that you don't know numbers, you don't know details. I mean, you know, I certainly wouldn't give details in terms of positions. I just hope we have a stronger squad at the start of the season than we do now, which is going to be difficult to achieve.
Is it a source of regret that, I mean, this week there's been a lot of focus on Newcastle and the provenance of the money, and people who perhaps don't know football are making making that jump that it's all to do with the power of the Saudi owners. Do you regret that, and the fact that your achievement is being lost?
Yeah, I don't really take it personally as in my achievement, because it's not really my achievement. It's the achievement of the players that have committed to this season and what they've given. That would hurt me for them. So I think the players deserve huge credit for individually for some of the seasons that they've delivered, and collectively for what they've done. I think I've said many times sat here, it's not about money. Money has played a part. It's been a contributing factor, of course it has. But we've seen teams up and down the Premier League spend similar amounts of money and not had the success and not been as consistent as we have. So there's a reason why we've been able to do that, and for me that's been down for all the reasons that we've already spoke about in this press conference.
Was there ever a moment, I know you're a great believer in taking one game at a time, but was there ever a moment this season when you thought, hello, Champions League football is very much on and we can target that?
I was asked this question a week ago, and no, there was no one moment where we thought, we never had a conversation about it internally. It's just something that crept up on us week in, week out. We were picking up results, and just crept up on us. And as you know, time goes so quickly. So this season feels like it's flashed by, and we're sat here now having achieved it. So I think that's probably the best way to look at it as well. We didn't get too ahead of ourselves. It was small steps for us.
Thanks, Eddie.
No problem.
Chris at the back.
Hi Eddie. When you look at the league table going into the game against Chelsea, you could still potentially finish third. I mean, how much does that matter?
Yeah, every place matters. Yeah, we'd love to do it. I watched the game last night, and I thought United played well, and it was a good win for them. So it obviously makes it more difficult for us. It's out of our hands, but we'll try to go to Chelsea and win the game.
And I suppose, potentially that could be worth a few extra million in terms of the transfer kitty, were you to finish third.
Yeah, I think every place is worth a considerable sum of money, and it's not lost on us, so we will do our best. As I say, the squad is stretched currently, so we're yeah, we won't go with the strongest squad that we could have done if everyone was fit, but we'll go hopefully with a team that can do very well.
Presumably, because the mentality has been there all season, you won't need to say to the players, kind of, we've got to give this game the respect that it deserves. It's not a dead rubber.
I think the players know that. I think this group has been committed to everything. I don't anticipate that to change at all. And in terms of our focus of our training, in terms of what I see day to day, I think the lads are very proud people, and we want to give a good account of ourselves right to the end.
And just last one, can you put into words just sort of how good this season has been, both on and off the pitch, in terms of results, enjoyment, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I always say in my job, day to day, you don't enjoy it. It's not, well, I say you don't enjoy it. That sounds terrible.
There's worse jobs you could have.
No, of course there is, but it's not a job that you're sitting there going, this is amazing from minute to minute. But it's a job very much, in my opinion, that you look back in moments like this at the end of the season and go, that was incredible. I loved every second of it, but when you're actually in it and the demands and sometimes the pressures that you face and the challenges that you face, you can get in some difficult moments. So it's great now to look back and to look at the season as a whole and go, wow, there's some real highs in there. There was some collective moments that will stay with me forever for my lifetime. And I'm so pleased I shared it with some amazing people as well, from my staff to the players, to the owners, to you guys in here. Some really special times that I'll never forget.
Thank you.
Okay, written some of Sundays as well, Damien.
Eddie, did you get a wag from the dog the other night when he got in, and what was the reaction of your lad?
Barely, to be honest, it was barely. I got in quite late, so I stayed in the office and talked to some friends till about 1-2 o'clock. So you can imagine when I got back, the dog was fast asleep. So no, barely.
Were your lads excited on Tuesday?
Yes, very excited, very pleased, very happy, and they loved being on the pitch, as they always do at the end of the season. One of the things they look forward to the most throughout the season is that last game. It's funny, my eldest son said to me, Dad, tell the groundsman, leave the goals up. That was his obsession. He wanted the goals, he wanted to score, so they loved it.
You asked about the controversy and the criticism earlier about the owners and what have you, and you've ruffled feathers on the pitch this season with what you've done. Next season you're going onto a bigger stage. Is that something you're going to have to get used to, that people are going to come for you?
I think we've been used to that from day one, to be honest. I think there's been that feeling that, I think popularity-wise, I don't think we're high up on people's lists for various reasons, and I think you accept that. I've got no issue with that, and almost we've tried to use that for our benefit and for our gain, really. So I've said we're not here to be popular. We don't care really about outside opinion, and we very much care about inside opinion. We care about what the people of Newcastle think of us and what our supporters think, and we've tried to act in the right way and make them proud. That's been our biggest focus.
Miles?
Nick Cloak's had surgery this week. Was it always the idea to get that done as if you secure Champions League football? Obviously, you moved very quickly to get that sorted.
Yeah, that was always the plan. We were hoping that we could get the operation done before the end of the season to give him the best chance of recovering as quickly as possible for next season. He's played through various finger dislocations this year, so I think he suffered probably 3 or 4, whether that's in training or in a game. But he's always got on with it. He's always made himself available. He's not really missed training because of it. But it was a problem that we knew needed clearing up for his own benefit. So I'm delighted it's done, and yeah, he's got the extra week.
And Martin Grafka, I imagine, could well play on Sunday. Where does his future lie? He's a player who's, until this season, was used to playing every week.
Yeah, very much hope his future's here. I think I rate Martin very highly. I always have done. It's just last summer we had the opportunity to recruit Nick, and Nick's done incredibly well. So it's been difficult for Martin to get the game time that he wants. But we need as good a squad as we can have going into a season where we're going to have loads of games. And so if Martin were to stay, I think he'd get a lot of football.
Jordan.
I managed to hold talks about the players that come to the end of the contract this summer.
Have I discussed? Sorry, I talked to them.
Contracts.
I haven't had discussions with players yet, no. But I will be doing so in the next few days and mapping out certain things for certain individuals.
And you've spoken highly of Matt Ritchie. Is he a player you would like to keep, or is his sort of circumstances out of your hands? Because I think you spoke last summer and potentially want to move sort of closer to his family.
Yeah, I've had various discussions with Matt throughout the season, and I think he's first and foremost he's been very committed to Newcastle and to the team and to the aims of this season. I have said that I desperately want to keep him next year. He has had issues surrounding his family and the distance between him and them. And it's never easy when you've got young children, and that distance when you're a parent is tough at times. But Matt's been exceptional, as I've said, and I certainly hope he stays for next year.
And Paul Dummett as well, similarly, you spoke highly of him. What does the future hold for him?
Again, I hope we can come to an agreement with Paul and he will stay for next year. I think he's a vital part behind the scenes of our success this year. He's trained superbly, his commitment to Newcastle is undoubted, and we'd love him to extend his stay.
Just one final one. Have you ever had a moment to sort of reflect on your journey? I mean, your first managerial job, you were sort of thrown into it at Bournemouth. Obviously, you had an incredible story there. Now you've reached sort of the top level in terms of managing Champions League. Have you had a moment to sort of pinch yourself and realise how far you've actually came on a personal level?
Yeah, I think there's not necessarily been one moment. I think it's sort of you have flashbacks and moments where you're transported back to earlier parts of your career, and then you sort of realise where you are now, and it has been an amazing thing to, part of it, talking about myself, but it's been an amazing thing to go through, the experiences, the highs, the lows, the real challenges, the work. You know, it's taken an incredible amount of hard work and dedication to stay in the game, to stay current, and those challenges only get harder as I sit here now. So, and again, going back to the question earlier, I've loved every second of it, although in it, it's been tough. But yeah, those little flashbacks to earlier stages of your career that do sometimes give you the perspective you need to go, look, we've done all right, but hopefully there's a lot more to come.
Craig, we sat down with Dan Ashworth at the start of the season, and he said part of this club's journey would be we'd have to trade. We might have to buy a player for 30 million, sell him for 60 million down the line, you know, with reference to the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Sven Botman and others. Does the Champions League and the acceleration of the journey protect you this summer? You know, is this club now not a selling club? I'm not saying it never was, but does that offer you protection, the fact you're in the Champions League against the likes of Bruno, Botman, Isaac, whoever it may be?
Yeah, possibly. I say possibly because you just never know in football. But yeah, I'd love to think we can keep the squad together this summer, and we can try to strengthen rather than weaken. Trading, I mean, Dan's said that to you. He's made the point to me as well that trading is an important part of our future, and that doesn't necessarily mean selling your best players, but trading to try and, with financial fair play rules now, and although it's complicated and I don't quite understand all the dynamics, I think sometimes trading a player can be a good thing for your finances. So you can get benefits from it, not just the transfer fee that you're getting. So trading potentially could be part of what we do this summer, but you just don't know. But I'd love to think we can keep the squad strength and try and add strength rather than weakness.
Someone like Bruno, would that potentially be a new deal for him or not?
I think all players will be looked at individually, and I think the club will be very keen to protect their assets and try and be ahead of the curve in terms of contract length and making sure that we're in a strong position, but also recognising players that have done well and rewarding them for their performances. I think that's important too.
Oscar?
In terms of working with Dan and the owners over new signings, how important is managing upwards for you heading into the transfer window? Would you consider that one of your strengths?
I consider a strength, you know, building relationships. I think that's important. Managing upwards, I don't necessarily like the term because it sounds like you're strategic in that. But I think having good relationships with people around the football club is hugely important. And I think for me, with the owners and my relationships with them and with Dan and with key people at the football club, they have to be strong as they can to enable us to be successful, and that sometimes means having honest conversations and being very upfront and honest with each other. I think has a big impact, hopefully, in making the right decisions. So I'll endeavour to do that.
Can you be a forceful and demanding manager in terms of getting those players you want?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own way. I mean, I think I will have my clear vision of what I want to do with the team and what I think we need, and then in turn what we have to do to get that, I can get my point across in my own way rather than it being forced.
Yeah, and you mentioned Champions League doesn't have an impact on the numbers you'll be bringing in. Does it mean you're able to focus on your top targets now?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a point, yes, because it makes us a bit more attractive and desirable for certain players. But I think we have challenges. We have challenges ahead. It's not as easy as everyone thinks it is to navigate the transfer market. There's always a blockage in the road that you've got to navigate round, and that's where we're going to be. So it's not going to be a slam dunk.
Scott?
I think I'm right in saying with Callum, Eddie, that he goes into the last year of his contract this summer. So is that something you'd be looking to talk through this summer? And then B, what's the club's kind of view on that? Because under the former ownership, Callum Wilson at 32 would not have been getting a new contract, simple as that. Is there much greater flexibility now? But obviously, bearing in mind that given a long-term contract to players in their 30s, you're potentially not going to get that money back.
Yeah, I think the simple answer for me is we'll view every player individually. Obviously, it's difficult for me to discuss any one player, but we'll view every decision individually and try and make the best call. Certainly, with your key players and core players, you don't want necessarily doubt on contracts and contract length, because I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. But of course, age and profile has to be looked into in great depth, and we'll have to try and get those decisions right.
But do you think you could make the argument that, there are certain players that are worth retaining in their 30s because of what they can offer you and the experience that they've got in a way that, as I say, in the past, it was a much harder argument for whoever was sitting in your seat to make upstairs?
I think it all depends on the individual player. So there's some players, as you say, that add value to your group into their 30s, even if they're not playing, they add value. Those players are so important. But if those players aren't adding value, then it's a different conversation. So we'll have those conversations internally, and we need to get the decisions right, as I said.
And then just the last one on a couple of players, Isaac Hayden and Jeff Hendrick, who have obviously been away, but who are still contracted here. I mean, do you anticipate them being back for pre-season, and how potentially difficult is that to manage for you next season? Because they couldn't get in your 25 this time, you imagine it'll be harder next time, yet they are contracted, and yet you don't necessarily want a big group of senior players who are training with under 23s or whatever come September.
Yeah, I think I had those conversations with those players last year where they trained separately to the group, only so I could control the numbers that I was working with and maintain the focus of the players that were going to be part of our season. I don't anticipate that changing, to be honest. I think those lads have done very well, and they've been great lads and servants for the football club over many seasons, and we certainly respect them. But sometimes you have to make a clear break, really, and focus on the players that are going to be part of our season next year.
Luke, you said there that you know what you want to do with your team and what you need. What do you need to do with your team?
I'm not telling you, Luke, am I? I've got a clear vision in my head of what we need, and I think it's hugely important that I know. But obviously these things, we have to work in a discreet way. But I think the squad definitely needs strengthening. There's areas that aren't strong enough in terms of depth. I'd love to try and improve the team as well and make us stronger for when we kick off next year, because the competition, as we said, is going to get harder. But I don't want to break up the core fabric of what we've got and the spirit that we've got. So it's very delicate, but we need to be stronger.
And if you stress that in your conversations with those above you, that if you go into next season with a squad, I don't want to say threadbare, but for want of a better word, that you're in trouble, or you could be in trouble in terms of balancing domestic and European competition?
Yeah, I think there's certain positions this year where if we would have suffered injuries in those positions, we would have been in a difficult situation. Thankfully, for the majority of the season, we didn't. We were able to navigate the season with a strong enough team. But with the competitions we'll be entering next year and the games that we've got, it's not going to be possible to play the same team in every game. That will be impossible. So that's where you need the depth, and that's where we need the strength, and hopefully we can find the players.
And I know you don't like talking about budgets, and that's totally understandable, but you are going to have to spend money, you are going to have to spend a sizable amount of money in this summer to get the players that you want.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, players don't come cheap, and that's good players especially. So, yes, we're going to have to spend a certain amount of money. What that is, I don't know. As I said, what our current budget is, I don't know either at this moment in time, but there'll have to be some expenditure. But it'll all have to be controlled, and it'll have to be under financial fair play restrictions, which we have worked under and continue to work under, and they are they're definitely impacting us and what we'll be able to do.
Thank you.
Kieran? I imagine the window never pans out the way you imagine it in your head, but how excited are you by the plans, the kind of players you're looking at the moment for the summer?
No, it doesn't. I mean, if you go back to the summer window, going into last summer, we had I had a vision, and the reality was different at the end through different things. But I was really pleased at the end when the window shut. I was like, we've done some really good work here. And that's going to need to be repeated. I would say that this will be our hardest window to date, in my mind. No doubt about that, because, as I've said, the pool of players we have to select from is very, very small.
I'd say you're looking at players on the continent with Champions League experience, but is Premier League experience important again? Is that something you want to bring in?
Ideally, you'd like experience of everything, but there's no player that fits or ticks every box. So you have to, the experience one I'm always a little bit torn on. You don't have to have played in a competition to be able to play in the competition. So we look at the strength of the player first, and of course, if they have the experience of certain things, then even better.
Lee? Eddie, last season you got Isaac through at the end of the window. Do you want to get players in earlier? You got a couple in early last year, but have you got anything ready to go?
No, there's nothing ready right this second, Lee. There's nothing that's been done and signed off and completed. Ideally, you do your work early and they're in for pre-season, and you can formulate your plans and your squad, and the players can get to know each other. But as you say, last year was a good example that we had to react very late in the window to get Alex, and he's turned out to be an incredible signing for us. So we'll have to be adaptable, because sometimes you can have the plan, but the other club or the other players have different ideas.
I mean, you have the names of the players in your mind. You obviously won't share them with us, but do any of the players in your mind sort of tick what the fans would see as a marquee signing?
Yeah, there'd be players that we would love to bring in that would be classified, I'm sure, under that bracket. But I think for me, it's more about the role they can fulfil in the team. If that's viewed positively or as a marquee signing, then great. I'm not necessarily, in my mind, thinking we have to have one of those players that sort of ticks that box for the supporters. As much as I'd love to do that, it's about finding the right player in the right position that we think can make us better.
Just finally on, you've got the tour of America coming up quite soon. How important is that going to be for the team bond? In Austria was massive last year. Is this going to be sort of similar?
Yeah, I thought Austria was amazing last year. I think it really did fit what we were looking for. And we didn't quite know that before we went, but it was the surroundings, the calmness of the environment allowed us to really focus on our work. And there was 2 or 3 things we did that really united the squad, I felt. Hopefully this trip can be just as fruitful for us. I think it'll be slightly different. I mean, the quality of the games really does stand out. I think it'll be a good test for us on the pitch. and hopefully we get a chance to bond as well, as you said. It's important.